Wanna come home to roses, dirty little nose on post-its. And when my hair starts turning gray, you say I'm like a fine wine, better with age. I guess I learned it from my parents. True love starts with friendship. Kiss on the forehead. A date night, faking apology after a fight. I need a man who's patient and kind. Gets out of the car and holds the door. I wanna slow dance in the living room. Rising and seeing your prom and grow. Always someone who makes me feel young. I need a man who loves me like my father loves my mom. Hello, good morning, everyone, and welcome to Coffee on the Couch, your Saturday morning relationship chat with me, Sandra D. As always, you know, when I come on, I need to have my cup of coffee. And this morning, I'm using like my mega mug. So it's full of coffee, full of delight. So, yeah, grab your coffee, grab your pens and your notepads, share the link to your friends and families, invite them to come on because it's going to be amazing this morning. I'm not just going to talk and talk and talk. No, today I have I know someone that calls me Love Guru, but hey, today I have the senior Love Guru himself with me in the studio, and we're going to talk about marriage maintenance. And oh, sorry, I think I can actually hear myself. All through the month of October, I've been doing marriage maintenance. I just been leaving snippets on for marriage maintenance, where I talk about how to sustain your marriage in the long term, how to sustain your marriage after being together for years. And as you're all aware, we know that when you live together for a while and you're not intentional about sustaining your marriage, sustaining the spark, the passion can dwindle down. And so this month we're just talking about marriage maintenance. We're talking about how to maintain the marriage after being together for years. How do you keep the spark? How do you maintain the passion? So this morning I have with me my one and only, hey, my apostle, my brother, my in-law. I have Apostle DK Asante with me this morning, and we're talking marriage maintenance. Guys, if you've just joined us, please go grab your coffee. And I told you this morning I have my mega mug. My mega mug is full of goodies, full of goodies. So, yes, Apostle is drinking his. So grab your coffee, and we're going to talk marriage maintenance. And was it last night or yesterday? I'm not even sure. But on one of the days, I think it was yesterday, I left a little snippet on my Facebook about marriage maintenance. And I said, from the beginning of every relationship, when you're dating or courting, you can spend hours on the phone talking. And I think I've shared mine with you guys a few times when my husband and I would talk on the phone till like 1 a.m. and my mom would just come out and say, "Oh, go and sleep. You go to work tomorrow." And she said, "Infanti, I will connect that book much now." A full grown woman like me, because I used to live with my mom, and so she would say, "Go and sleep," But we know that after some time, after some years, if you're not intentional about keeping the spark, it really begins to fizzle down. And so, I mean, a lot of people say it, but like I said on the post, we don't want to maintain that status quo where we still, after living together for a while, we need to become like roommates or flatmates or bedmates. There's no passion. Where are you going? I'm going out. When are you coming? Later. What would you eat? Anything. We don't want that kind of a thing in our marriages. We want to break that status quo. That is what we're doing marriage maintenance. So we're talking all about maintaining beautiful, healthy, godly relationship, godly marriages. So this morning, Apostle and I were talking about how to reconnect with your spouse, just in case you are on that kind of a borderline or you think you're dwindling, you're fizzling down into it. How do you reconnect with your spouse to keep the marriage and keep your passion and romance alive? So that is what we're talking about. And like I said, he is the guru, man. He's going to give you the practicalities, the spiritual side, the everything, the whole embodiment of marriage maintenance. And so, guys, help me welcome this morning to our screens, Dr. Apostle, Evangelist, Pastor, all the accolades I can ascribe to you,
Oh dear.
Douglas Asante. Welcome, sir.
Thank you for having me, Sandy.
Thank you
Great to be
so much.
here this
Thank you.
morning.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you. Thank you. You know, it's not easy to get up on a Saturday morning and just, jump onto the screen and start sharing. And so I'm very privileged that you're on.
thank you.
Now, Apostle, I know you've been married for some time now, isn't it? How many
Yeah,
years have you been married, please?
15 years, by grace.
Hey, you see, when the by grace comes in, also 15 years being together with, oh, and his wife is so beautiful. We're going to have her on our screen shortly, very soon. Dr. Diana, you've been together with this amazing, beautiful man for 15 years, and I know you have three amazing daughters as well. How have you? I'm not even going to say who is Apostle Douglas. No, 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 no. Today we're not doing about that. Today we're just pushing down the side and we're going straight into the nitty gritty of maintaining marriage. So you've been together for 15 years. How have you been able to sustain this 15 years of passion? Because when people are in love, trust me, guys, when somebody is in love and you see them, you can tell from their faces. And I think I've said it before that when a woman is in love, when you see her in the morning, or a woman that has a husband that loves her, when you see her, her face betrays her because she always has smiles on her face. She's glowing. And when you see Dr. Diana, guys, you would know that this man has been doting on her. So, Apostle, how have you been able to maintain that kind of a passion for the past 15 years?
Okay. I would say, let me just start off with the foundation.
Yes, sir.
And I think that if we talking about marriage maintenance, it's a bit easier when the foundations are strong, they are solid. And so I think we have been blessed with a foundation that is entrenched in the Word of God. And um, and I guess the Bible says that if the foundations are destroyed, what can the
What can the
righteous do?
righteous do? Mm,
And so whatever we're able to do now, we're able to do today, all has a bit to do with the foundations. It makes it easier for us. So when the storms come, then we're able to still stand strong. So I think it's just, I would say, it's our view of marriage.
mm,
Our view of marriage has been very helpful. I remember when we're getting ready to marry, I approached my godfather, and one thing he said at the time, which probably now makes more sense, is that it says in every relationship or in a situation, you always have two people wanting to always try to be wise. He says that,
mm.
for lack of a better word, let me bring it in our local dialect. Because it will be to me, you know, because you can all try to be wise. And so, and I
Absolutely.
think that it's I always hear his voice,
Mm,
that advice play in, because sometimes both parties are trying to um, bring across what might be important to them.
mm.
Yet, if you think that there are issues and you need to let go, you allow that to pass. So I
Yeah.
think that we've been accommodating, we've been committed. Most importantly, we've been loving to each other, um, and the fear of God has been part of it. And it is key with the nature of my job and her job. We are most of the times away with our jobs, and I guess it's very easy for somebody to just walk out in the morning to do their own thing and come back in the evening and without you seeing it. But we do believe God sees everything and wherever we go. I'm not an FBI to monitor her, neither is she. And so we allow God to build us up, and that's how we've kept it.
Wow.
That's how we've kept it.
Wow. Okay. So for 15 years, it's been grace alone. I think I shared a few times that I said, if I can describe my marriage, I'll just use amazing grace. That's the word I could use to describe my marriage. That it's been just amazing grace because there are days when, because we're human, there are days where we think we are unlovable or our spouses are unlovable, and then we draw them into the mood or how we're feeling, and then we begin to, like, especially with women, where we try our skin small. But then the guys are like, what, we just ignore all your antics and just go with the flow. So, Apostle, today we're talking about marriage maintenance and we're talking about reconnecting with your spouse. There's some people, I mean, you've been together for 15 years, and so You have the practical knowledge, as well as you being a marriage counselor. You have the how do I say it? The theory of that as well, and you being a pastor, you have the pastoral care as well. So you are the embodiment of the three. Now, how can couples reconnect, or why? Let's go back. Let's even use, why do they lose the reconnection, and then
Hmm.
how can they reconnect when the reconnection is missing?
Okay. I think let me just quickly bring in a text which will equally be useful for us for our discussion for today. I'll
Mhm.
try and use this verse as a foundational text with everything we discuss. So it's we're looking at Ecclesiastes chapter number 10, the verse 18. It says, "Because of laziness,
Mm,
the building decays."
mm,
And then it goes, it says, "And through idleness of hands, the house leaks." You
my
know, so
goodness.
I think
Mm,
you've asked a very profound question. And but one reason why we we would need maintenance, or the spark goes away, is because we become lazy and idleness sets in.
mm,
In that we do not do um, what is required to maintain the the building. And so the Bible is saying that the roof begins to leak.
mm,
You know, it's always good when people are looking for homes to buy. That when you see a brand new home, you go to the show homes. They're amazing, they're beautiful. You can't wait. But you see, you give
mhm.
yourself the next 10 years after doing the banku, the okro, it doesn't stay the same. You
Absolutely.
know, and so until you are willing to and maintenance means you're trying to bring it to that stage of usability where what it used to be,
Mhm,
or even furthermore, even get it to improve. Because as you begin to use an item, it begins to wear out. You know, everything has got a lifespan to it,
mhm,
and so it's our marriages. And so initially, you might be kissing, you are interested, you can't every moment you come here, baby, you kissing, and then the rough edges begin to set in. Last night he was snoring, you
uh-huh.
couldn't sleep, and you wake up in the morning, you say kiss kiss, you say jawa some, you know. So so you realize that, Charlie, it is not as you saw it before you entered. You know, the building
Mhm,
was clean, but this is what the Bible is saying. It says that idleness. So we don't leave it. You don't
absolutely.
leave what is bothering you. You don't leave what is affecting you. You need to work at it.
Mm,
And I think that many counselors tend to use the vehicle,
mm,
cars, to as an analogy to help us understand this topic of maintenance. And such thing is that when you have a luxury car, it's expensive to maintain luxury cars. Every car needs maintenance, you know.
absolutely.
But you know those that are very expensive. Some cars, their tires alone will put some shopping
I'm
in your
telling you.
budget. And so if you're choosing to drive such cars, it means that their maintenance will be really high.
Absolutely.
Then with the maintenance, there's external maintenance and there's internal maintenance.
Mm,
I'm sure as we discuss, we would be able to open some of these areas up. So yes, we need it because with time, spark dies off,
mm.
and the reason why we need to maintain it is because we need a fire to keep burning and to keep us going.
Wow. Wow. I like the word says that when you neglect the house, it leaks. So it
It
means that you
leaks.
have to be hands on to maintain the house. I mean, I remember when we're looking to buy this property, we saw like loads and loads and loads and loads and loads of buildings. But for some strange reason, as soon as we got into this property, I'm like, this is the one I want.
Mm,
But prior to seeing this, we've seen like nice new houses, and it was because Essex, Harlow was now developing, so they were now building new beautiful houses. But I saw this one and I'm like, no, this is what I want. My mom was like, are you sure? I'm like, yeah, this is what I want. I fell in love with the living area.
mm,
My living room it stretches, so it's quite long. And I'm like,
mm,
oh no, from length to length. And so, but then it's taking hands on to be able to maintain that you still have that kind of a space where it's not cluttered, and so you declutter every now. I hate clutter anyway. So so every now and then you need to declutter. So I think what you said is so on, it's so good, and what the Bible has said is spot on. That if you don't maintain a house, it will destroy. Likewise, if you don't maintain your marriage, you will lose it because
Mm.
leaks come in, and so you need to now begin to find the plumber to come and fix it. That is so beautiful. And then I love the analogy you use about the cars. That is so true. I remember a few a few years ago, quite a long time ago. On my 40th birthday, I got a gift, and it was a Jeep. And a Grand Cherokee has always been my dream car, and I love that
Mm-hmm.
car to bits. Maintaining a Grand Cherokee in UK was so expensive because it's an American car,
Oh.
and so at some point I had, when it was now beginning to, needing all the maintenance, I had to
You can
say,
imagine Osofo is doing well because you're a high maintenance yourself.
I love that car to bits. I love that. But unfortunately, I got involved in an accident, 3 years ago, and it was written off, and my heart just bled. But maintaining that car was very, very expensive. So now
Mm.
let's talk about this maintenance thing. So are some people very expensive to maintain in a marriage then, or are some
Yeah.
marriages very difficult to maintain?
Okay. So I think I would look at it more from the angle of some marriages are very expensive to maintain because when we look at people expensive to maintain, it's a choice we make.
Mm,
And so, of course, if I think recently I listened to one rich man in Ghana who, during this difficult times, he had a bank. I think it was a UT bank. He said he sold all his house to just try and get a two-bedroom flat. He's comfortable, because what he's done is he's downsized, but yet others would maintain that kind of status quo or that big and yet will struggle and be in debt. So he's
mhm,
done what is why. So that those bits are more of choices we want to make. But when we talk about some marriages being difficult to maintain or expensive to maintain, is the case that I like to use the analogy of a subset, two circles coming together,
mhm,
which forms the two people, one being set A, set B. And when you're about to marry and your intersection, where your lines cross, the
mhm,
intersection is bigger. It tells you that the friction you have tends to be lesser than those whose intersection is small.
mm,
And in this case, you could have issues with, um, um, the in-laws being you've left home, but you've not really left. You could have issues with commitment to the marriage. You could have issues with unity. And so when you have all these, and then these things lead also on to intimacy. You'd realize that the leaks are a lot. You're trying to block this leak, another one is working against you here, and
mm.
so it makes it very difficult to maintain. But yet, grace abounds in that God is able to make all grace abound towards us.
Absolutely.
Um, and so I think that once we commit ourselves, therefore, to want to work at it, to seal those leak holes or leaking areas, it is possible, but it would require a lot of work,
A lot of work. Mm.
to maintain it. But it's possible. It is possible to still. I've seen people buy really bad homes that have been written off on auctions.
Yes.
When you see them
Mm.
again, ooh, you won't believe it. It is because it is possible.
Yeah.
It is possible. You know.
It's possible. It's so true. It is so true. There's a program on Channel 5. Was it Channel 5 or not sure, that's BBC One. Well, I've never watched it before. It was just this week, when we were just browsing because I was home, I think on Tuesday or Wednesday. I was home with the girls. We are just browsing, and we came across, and it's called Renovation Nation, where
Okay.
people buy like really bad homes, and not just one bedroom, two bedroom homes, oh, manors, uh,
Oh.
yes, mansions, really run down mansions, and they take the pain and the time to restore it. And when you see it at the end, I'm like, whoa.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah. So what you said is so true. So you can actually get a bad marriage, but then if you take the pain and be gentle, you can actually rebuild it to become a good one. But I think
Sorry,
so.
sorry. On that, just a flip on with the example you've given,
Yeah.
and I would assume that when those mansions were built, they were brand new, you know,
Yes.
and
That
then
that is wisdom. That
and
is deep.
with time, with the idleness, with the laziness, people have just walked away from it because they can't afford to
Maintain it.
maintain it again. Yeah, so the
Right.
case.
So, Apostle, do you think that people will also walk away from a marriage that they think is expensive to maintain?
Yeah, sometimes, but you see, the word expensive here could be relative. In
Hmm.
that what might be expensive for you and I might not be expensive for someone else. So someone's expensive, or when we talk about something being expensive, would mean their spouse cheating on them, and and you're trying to repair this, and every day they try to put themselves through it.
Mm,
They keep hurting them.
mm,
Anytime they try, they're doing everything. It's not as if they are starving them, but they're doing everything possible to get this man to be faithful. And so such a situation, when people give up, it's not because, though grace abound, when people give up, you realize that there's a
grace
reason
about.
why. Yeah,
Mm,
even though they've moved on, there's a reason. And for others, it's always about the intention. Probably this young man might have come home on holidays, and no bugger comes home, tattered.
mm,
When they are coming, they know that, Charlie, I'm going home on holiday. So even if they are doing cleaning job, you will not see them that is cleaning or anything. They will come up, not to say cleaning jobs are bad, but look, hey, you could be a manager, you could own a cleaning company.
absolutely.
But what I mean is, when you see them, you would think that it's all good. They are in the UK, they are in the US, and so if your perception at the time was wrong, and you were going
Mm.
in because a burger and the dollars and the pounds, and when you come in and then you realize, Charlie, it is not like that.
Reality sets in.
Really
Mm,
interesting. Then you will see that it's not really. I'll give you a story I came across. I'm not sure how I can align even this story to it. So I heard this a presenter saying that in the course of their marriage, the wife started complaining that the man was not performing. He's got his strength had gone down. He should do something about it. She's been complaining a lot. The man wasn't listening, so one day he came back from the I think he had gone to the bar, already drunk. Go home, and there were his family members with pastors and everybody. They wanted to sit him down, and he asked, "What do you need here?" And they said, "Oh, your wife has been complaining that this thing is not working. You're not doing something that was Ajua.
ah,
When I married you, your breast was standing. Now, when it fell, did I call anybody? If mine has also dropped, why are you calling people to come and have a meeting? Charlie, something So, when people want to stay, they will stay. And, if they
oh
want to really stay to
dear.
work at it, they'll work at it. And I think that if we choose not to, work at it, then the least thing would get us to walk away.
Mm, mm,
Which I believe
true.
that the one of the key thing about maintenance is that there's no home, like you rightly said. This mansions had aged.
Yeah.
When you have that understanding that as we grow in, things will change, beauty fades, strength would fade. If you have those understanding, then your expectations is well managed.
Yeah.
We don't require things that we can't really do something about.
That's so true. So, does it mean that sometimes our expectations um, are don't actually meet our realities, or is it because we have unrealistic expectations about getting married, and so we tend to think that when I saw you when we could spend hours on the phone, when I get married to you, we still need to maintain that kind of communication where we talk from 9 p.m. to 1 a.m., talking about everything and anything, and being able to wake up in the next morning and all that. Is it because people have unrealistic expectations about marriage? That is why they're not able to like maintain it and sustain it and reconnect. I really want to get it.
Yeah, I think it is a case, because I have come to always say that dating is sweet and planetary ed.
Papa.
Because what what actually
Hi,
happens is
Pastor Barbara. Nice to have you on. Amma, nice to have you on.
Yeah, what makes in the case is that the analogy or the example you gave about um, being on the phone for a long time. I remember it was the same for me and Lady D. But you see, it wasn't happening at the time when I had to be in work and when she had to also be
Absolutely.
in work. So
Mm,
you realize that the times when we were sitting on the phone for hours where
mm.
we're not saying anything, because really, I was just getting ready to go to bed. But you always do it at the time when it's convenient.
Yeah, true.
So when when you bring the same mindset to the marriage, thinking, hey, I remember when we were dating, you were always on the phone. You were always on the phone. Now you're not making. It's not really because of not making that. The time you want us to talk, probably I've literally just come back from a job that has killed.
Mm-hmm.
I've had a hard day, and 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 it means that we are not being realistic about our situation, and that we place
Absolutely.
on unrealistic demands. And I think when it comes to businesses, that is why we set smart goals.
Yeah.
We need to have the same smart goals within our marriage. I cannot be thinking that, look, when we married and there were no kids, and it was in the hall, that we will have it in the downstairs and in the kitchen. Look, when there are kids and everybody wants a piece of their mother, she is
Yeah.
cooking, she's going to work equally. Like, if you try to say, look, nowadays you don't do like before, of course, it can't be like before.
Before, yeah.
Before because you've got intruders in the house, you've got snipers in the house. So, and
So you
equally,
see,
people
that
are
is the
tired.
soldier man talking. We've got snipers, we've got intruders. Please add more.
Eh, and so people are tired. Those who choose to not want to knock when they are coming in, and those who think that it's their parents' house, so they will just come in.
Hmm.
Sometimes it's very difficult to manage these things, you know.
Absolutely.
And I think that if we are setting goals, we ought to be really realistic to help us attain them. If not, we would always disappoint ourselves.
Wow. I like that. I like where it says they have snipers and they have intruders. And I think it's so true. I mean, sometimes they just barge into your room and they won't even tell you they're coming. Before you know it, the door is open and they're jumping on you and they want to ask you for something. And
Uh,
could be that that is the moment of truth, but then
mm,
they come to destroy them. Oh
bless
my
them.
goodness. Oh yes, oh yes, yes, yes. I mean, I'm loving this conversation. Guys, please share this interesting conversation with your friends. Invite your friends to come on and let's have this chat. We're talking about marriage maintenance, how to maintain your marriage after years of being together. If you think that your the passion is fizzled down, your romance is going down, what are some of the things you can do to reignite it? And that's what Apostle and I are talking about this morning. So please join in the conversation. If you have any questions or comments you want to add as well, please feel free. If you want to send them to me directly in my inbox, that's fine. If not, you can just leave it in the comment section and Apostle will try and answer them for you. Now, Apostle, I know you wrote a book recently and it's called
The
the
ministry of God.
ministry of the wife, isn't it?
Mm.
Okay. Now, please, the ministry of the wife. Now let's talk about this for a little bit with regards to marriage maintenance. The wife is tired. She's probably let's use myself as an example. I'm a working woman. I've got kids. I've got ministry to look after. I've got 1,001 people depending on me. I've got a job going. I've got my side issues, and so I've got side hustles. I've got events. I've got conferences. I've got all that. I do all this, and I come home tired. Does the husband now expect me to be the same person that I was when I didn't have all these commitments?
So I think so. You looked at this question, one concentrating on the woman, but I think that we would try.
We'll come to the men, but
Yeah,
let's talk
but what I'm
about
saying,
the
we
woman
will
first.
try and assume that there's oneness. There's oneness as a foundation. So if because we should all be working towards this mystery of oneness, and so if there is, then you realize that the husband becomes understanding. Not necessarily easy, especially if he wants you. It's not easy to sometimes to let go. Even though the way I deal with it is that man shall not live by bread alone. When Bible, when that scripture comes, it cools you down. You realize that
Okay.
it is the case.
Oops.
um, but there will be understanding. Especially,
Mm,
you can imagine if he was thinking about the two of you spending quality time and together, having some intimacy together. That it
mm-hmm,
means that whilst all these jobs are happening and looking at your schedule, knowing what you would do, there are
mm-hmm,
things that equally he can do to support it. So you come and it might not really be an issue of the action. Food is ready, the kitchen is tidy, because one of the things that when the kitchen is not tidy, it will drag, it will change it. Once the women put their hands to which want to tidy their kitchen, it leads on to so many other chores which you don't want. So you want to tidy it up, and then you get them to sit and put their feet up on you and try to massage it and just talk to them. And so it might not be that you want anything, you don't want anything really. And you're just helping calm them down because you're trying to show that there's empathy. You care about how their day has been.
yeah.
So that is a normal sense, or normal, or ideal posture you would want.
Mm,
But where there isn't oneness, where everybody has their own kind of thinking, then it becomes a case that some of the men do not even think that you're working hard enough, even after all that you've done, and therefore they will place on you unrealistic demands,
demands, yeah.
expecting you to still be, superwoman, when really, in the fact,
Freaky,
if if
freaky.
if you, if you, even fantabulous woman, even if you drink Red Bull, my sister, you cannot do anything because you are tired. You're tired and
Guys,
the
don't
brain is
you love Apostle already? You know, even if you drink Red Bull, your energy wouldn't
it's
sustain
gone.
you to
No,
become
no,
that
no, no.
freaky, freaky, and fantabulous woman that the man is expecting from you. Oh my goodness, this is so interesting. Amma says, "Ish, I nearly missed." Yes, of course you did. Hey, you're on now. So, when we finish this, you can just go back and watch the beginning. This is so true. So, Apostle, why do we sometimes as couples lose that passion, that intimacy? We know life happens, but
Hmm.
why do we now? Is it because we leave it to chance, or case sira? We lose that kind of a passion where when we're dating, we used to hold hands, we used to kiss, we used to hug, just cuddle. I know some couples that they can't even remember the last time they had a cuddle, because cuddles is not in their vocabulary. It has to be action, action, action. Live camera action. But for them, there's no there's no the light. It's just action. So they can't even remember the
Hmm.
last time they even had a cuddle, or just sit down to put their wives or their husbands' legs on the wife and have a good massage or just have a good chat. Why do we lose that?
Hmm. Let me see if I can bring up the text again, but this time read it in a way that is not script. It's not what the text is saying. This is my own way of putting it. So it says, because of laziness. So because we become lazy at our marriage, because we become unintentional, because
Mm,
we take it for granted, you know. So for my Miss Sandra is there. So no, she's fine. She's spiritual. She will not cheat. She's okay. She's spiritus. All those kind of stuff. So we will not even. And if vice versa, my husband is a soulful, or he's a genuine, he's a good man, and so the things that we deemed important, the boundaries,
mm,
a book I'm looking at, maintaining the old boundaries, the boundaries that were once important to us. You spoke about the holding of hands, where the object of concern or the person of importance was your spouse.
mm,
Now we have literally other things that we deem important to, and therefore with time we kind of, out of, um, in the lack of a better word, understanding, we understand that he will be fine. I understand that she will be fine. Also, we neglect, even when people they are talking, we
mm.
don't listen. And
I love
a
that
typical
word,
example is
neglect.
when you're not
Mm,
careful, you would see yourself as a pastor. So if you're not careful, you see that sometimes you pay attention to church members, with their concerns, than even when your wife is speaking, because you're thinking, look, we've just gone to church, I'm tired. But
mm,
no wife wants a tired husband,
no.
and so I think we get into a stage where we neglect the needs of each other. we take each other for granted. We don't become
Mm.
intentional. We
Mm.
don't become intentional. And I think for us as charismatics and Christians, we become equally, not in a bad way, but become too spiritual.
Mm-hmm.
You know, um, we become too spiritual that we want to lay hands on everything before we eat. It doesn't help. So
Oh my goodness.
we really need to realize that we are flesh and blood. So I try to remind myself that I'm a man, I'm a pastor, I'm a father. So at home, I ought to be a father, to be able to play, to do crack jokes, do stuff without ministerial office or anything, because that is what my children want me to be to them.
Yeah.
Yet, when you need to bless them and put well be in that pastoral office, you can be. But
Mm-hmm.
let us remember, because if we neglect these boundaries, the old Asian lines, what will happen is that, as the text is telling us in Ecclesiastes 10:18, we'll become lazy at the things that are important. We would think that they are no more important. You
True.
know, you used to buy, like you. I think the other day we had I was listening to you spoke about how you love your cats. They are not expensive. They are simple things, but if the said man was thinking, look, oh, Charlie, I've been buying cars, I've been seeing them, I'm tired. What you don't realize, you don't know what it does for the person.
Yeah.
So we need to
True.
keep doing them. Sometimes I didn't understand what flowers used to do. Of course, Charlie, after a while, you people put it in the bin. But
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't really need. I don't need to understand it. If she loves it, I need to keep buying it.
Absolutely.
Because it stirs her up. It brings out the love. So I think that we neglect. We become too familiar with
That's
the
the
things
word.
that
I
are
love that.
important. And we just need to become intentional to remember that familiarity indeed breeds
With
contempt.
content. Right. I love what you just said. And I think that what you just said is so true because we tend to like neglect the little things we're doing. Um I think I was doing, I'm not sure what one of these sessions I was doing, and someone said, "Oh, who organizes a campaign after an election?" And I say, "You
Yeah,
forget that there's a re-election. So if you don't fulfill the promises you made during your campaign time, when re-election comes and you want next office, you won't win because
get
you
it. Yeah.
didn't fulfill." And I think that is what happens to a lot of people, that when they were dating, they were being all lovey-dovey, and then they got married and they thought, "Oh, man, that's all we are. You're my wife, you're my
I
husband.
know.
So I don't need to do those things again because now I've it's, a Nigerian friend of mine says, Abi, I settle you now. I settle you." Because you think they're settled, you don't. Yes, also for Pastor Clement says re-election. Yes, of course. If you want to run for second term office, you need to still campaign to get that. And so if you don't want your constituents to start saying that you didn't fulfill your promise, then you won't win anyway. Yeah, that is so true. So we neglect. Please let us not neglect the things we're doing when we're dating. I think, when was that? A few years ago, my husband and I sat down and I said to him that let's relive our dating days. Let's relive them. And we had a marriage conference. I think it was Fresh Glow. And I said to the people that came for the conference, that I've said to my husband, I want us to relive. And we're like, how do you relive your dating days? I said, the things we used to do, the walks in the park, the holding of
Hmm.
hands, the going to buy popcorn, the going to the cinemas. These were things we were doing when we were dating. Now we've got married, we've got kids. So we need to begin to relive them. And people thought it was quite an unrealistic expectation. But to me, I think that it brought my marriage to the place where I am now, that I'm very comfortable because it's become a part of us. We were neglecting those things because we were
Hmm.
having kids, you're going to, but life happens, yes. But I think that when couples would sit down and relive their dating days, they would get to a point where them that I think we've neglected these things. So I love the word you use, neglect, and also that we become too familiar with the person, and I say, "Okay, could your say I'm at your," they're there. So why am
Hmm.
I trying to do that? But I love that what you said.
So
Guys, don't
is it
let
okay to chip in
that.
here?
Yes,
Well, I think
please.
you said something about reliving the olden days.
Yeah,
And I think that even we've made mention about managing that expectation because
yeah,
there are demands. But I think the
absolutely.
bottom line of that bit is that husbands and wives do not play a game. We people have stopped playing with their spouses. They don't have friendship in them. And so I think that that's the bottom line of what you're saying. So of course, if you're not able to have that popcorn, you still want to be able to sit and play cards. You want to be able to still have that moment of being able to just laugh and do the things you, but we become too serious. The only people we laugh with are when we go to the pastoral boardrooms, or when the people,
Mhm.
they're so caucus, the kind of groups, the girls, but it doesn't then help.
No,
It doesn't help us as husbands and wives. And so with time you'd realize that yes, you're together but you're growing apart.
apart,
I
absolutely.
thought you just mention of that. It's a good
That
point.
is that is so true. Together yet apart. I saw a quote on that this week. Together yet apart, or far apart, something like that. And I think it's so true. Pastor Clement, you said, well, we've explored the re-election campaign concept. But if you want to have a good home, you need to go back again to your drawing board. And I
Yeah,
think
but
it's
I
so
think, but
true.
what Pastor Clement is saying in terms of, if I'm right, in terms of the re-election, just to line it in, I think the way I see the re-election is, if we don't fulfill what we said you do, I'll come home at 3, or I'll do this for us to talk. Then you realize that when it is time for you to know each other intimately, one party is not ready. Then they are reminding you of your promises. They are telling you that, look, you said one factory, one dam. They are telling you that, look, it didn't happen. How can it happen? Then you realize that you are back again giving promises. Charlie,
Mm,
forgive, take my words. Next week it won't happen if you're not careful. So Charlie, let's be intentional, and
I
and
love
and,
the
and
forgive
God will
part.
help us.
Amen to that. Amen to that.
We're always begging.
But some parents, Charlie, people are always begging. We need to go past the stage of begging, and we need to
Oh
get to the
God, give
place
us
where
grace.
our eyes will just do the talking. I look at you, you look at me, and you know the signals I'm giving, because we're all in the same platoon. And so I think that it's so we've explored the re-election campaign concept. Oh yeah, that is so true. Before we came on, I was playing a song about this, a song that a little girl wrote for her parents, and she was talking about she wants a man that loves her like the way her father loves her mom. And she
Mm,
said she wants a man that will hold the door, a man that will leave stickers, naughty stickers around the house, a man that will give her roses. She says, I want to come home to roses, not naughty sticky posters all around the house, a man that holds the door, a man that dances with me like we're 18 even though we're older. I want a man that there's another part, a man that makes me feel young, and I need a man that loves me like the way my father loves my mom. And honestly,
mm,
when I'm listening to the words, for some people, they might think these are just unrealistic expectations. But like you said, if you want to maintain it, if you want to maintain your house, you make sure that every year you have the British gas coming to service your boiler. You have
mhm.
the plumbers coming to make sure that your pipes aren't frozen in the winter. You want to make sure that your heaters are working okay. So these are maintenance. Now, for somebody that thinks that what this girl wrote about her parents are unrealistic, they're going to leave it to chance. They're going to neglect it, and then the house now begins to run down. Is it an unrealistic expectation on the part that women, especially girls, we have this kind of fairy tale ideas of, I want to come home to roses. I want to see dirty notes on post-it stickers. I want to have a slow dance with my husband. I want the man that makes me feel young even though I'm growing. Are these unrealistic expectations, Sophie?
No, not at all, not at all. The Bible says that all things are permissible, or all things to them that believe. I think it all boils down to you believing. I'm sure Michelle Obama, as she was growing, she had never said that she would want to marry an American president. Which of them is easier? Is it being American president, marrying one, or putting stickers on a door? you know and by all means you should keep dreaming. It is possible. Unfortunately, let the girl know, I've got girls. I wish I had a boy. I would have just trained that girl for giving him understand. But it is real. It is possible, and it makes you realize that her ambitions, she shouldn't even lower her standards.
At
it's,
all.
it's a desire. It's what she wants. And I think the flip side is that um, charity begins at home. They learn what they pick it up from us without even we preach to them with our lives. And
True.
it's great that her father has lived is a true testament of what a good man is or what a good husband is. She's got a standard. And then I think that as a father, that is how I would want my children to be able to view me for, to be able to, when they are picking or making choices, they look out for traits of the goodness in their father, because that's
Absolutely.
the first man in their life.
Mm.
And so it's not unrealistic. The point is, um, as to whether the opposite, the men are also, I'm sure there might be good men out there also desiring good women, women who would love them, would respect them for who they are, would honor them, and all. And so when you meet such a guy, her dreams will come true.
Mm.
Except that when you feel that you're not meeting that person, what then do? You tend to want to now. Okay, these were red lines. I remember during Brexit, Theresa May had lots of red lines. And then every meeting she goes, one of the red lines will drop. Every meeting she goes, one of the so it tells you that if you're willing to lower the standards, then you're bound to get something that is similar to what you were dreaming of, but it's not the same.
The same.
So
Absolutely.
really,
That
if
is
that is
so
what will
true.
make you happy, then by all means wait. But it is possible to find such a man.
Absolutely. And I love that. And I think I've shared with us a few times where my girls will say, especially my oldest, she's once, even, was it 2 days ago? Very funny. Let me just share this story with you. So my youngest, she had a friend come to visit her on Thursday, and this guy came to stand outside, and then my other two girls, the older ones, were laughing at her that this guy has a crush on her. That is why he's come all the way to where we live, because we live like in the far end. And then this guy has got on his bike and come all the way to see her, because they went to the same primary school together, and he hasn't seen her for a while, and she's now in secondary school. So this guy rode his bike all the way to my house to just come and say hello to my daughter, because he's come back from holidays from Turkey. And my older ones were just laughing at her that, oh, you have a crush, you have a crush. And so it turned into a whole conversation. We're talking about relationships and all that. And then my oldest repeated what she always says: I want a man like my dad. I want a man that will love me just like what the girl said, a man that will love
Mm,
me just like the way my dad loves my mom. And so I said, why do you love your dad? He says, Mommy, you have no idea. I love my dad. And the way she said it with so much confidence and so much conviction, like, Mommy,
mm,
you have no idea. I love my dad. And I said, yeah, I know you love your dad because he's your dad. But why would you want to have a man like your dad? He just like, don't you get coffee every morning? When dad is home, don't you get your coffees every morning? Don't you get your teas every morning? Don't you ask him to do? You don't even ask him to do stuff. He does it for you. And for me, I think that, like you said, our kids are learning from us. So they kind of like want to relive their lives or want to have a relationship when they grow as how they see us. So if we are not careful about how we live our lives in front of our kids, then we might miss the mark of them not also like settling for less, like you just said. But for some people, they might think it is an unrealistic expectation, because I've heard people say to me that I have so many unrealistic expectations, but I'm like, no, these are the standards I set for myself. And I know that, I think God, I always say God exceeded my expectations of what I actually
mm.
wanted in a man. God actually exceeded my expectations, because
Amen.
yeah, to that. Right. So why do we neglect? Is it because of familiarity? Or is it because we're comfortable? Or is it because we don't value what we have?
So I think it comes down to what you've just said. The answers you've posed, some being familiarity, but equally, I think, and most importantly, when we lose sight of the value of what we have. I always say that when a woman goes to the shop and buys some clothes, and she brings them home, and one of them she picks them in sale for, let's say, £12, and she comes home, where she puts that £12 will tell you, because of the price. And yet, and
Absolutely.
then she goes again, she sees one for 150, she comes, and where she would want to hang the 150 will tell you the value she placed on it.
Mm,
However, she goes for a party, and then someone sees her in the £12, and they go like, wow, that you look beautiful in this, it must be very expensive. her perception about that dress changes. She would come and move it from where she places it in a basket and begin to hang it. And so it's not always about the price. So it's the same thing with us. When we place less value
Mm.
on the things that do matter to us, we will treat it anyhow. And the Bible says that in the house there are so many vessels. Some
That's
are
it.
of clay, some are of
Mm.
gold. So we choose.
Mm.
And I'm sure when somebody visits you now and they want a cup of tea, there's a kind of mug that you would use. It tells you that some mugs are dim as just home mugs, and even when they break, you don't care
Mm.
because you feel they are not important. But and I think that it's just the importance. And I would say that for when it comes to these areas of our lives, being our spouses and our marriage, we need to place much importance upon it because that would change our perception and how we should treat it.
Mm.
It's strange how sometimes we are nice to people, especially opposite sex, outside of the home,
Mm.
and yet we come home and because of familiarity, because Charlie oh, because like you rightly said, Charlie, I paid the price already. So
I don't settle up. I don't
and I
settle
said you settle them.
up.
But it's possible for us to change the way we think
Mm.
about these things, and it will do us good. I don't know, but I don't know how God has done it. But I always tell the lady D, as I'm aging, I think she's growing younger. I always see the
Mm.
beauty in her. It's a choice you want to try and make. And I think that if you always look at people's faults,
Mm.
you look at the holes, you look at the things that will let you place less value on people. That is how you will see it. But if you tend
Absolutely.
to look at the best in people, you would always see the best in them.
Mm, that is so true. That is so true. So the value you actually put on the marriage, the value you put on your relationship with your spouse will actually determine how you maintain it. Because
Correct.
if it's very expensive, you need to like maintain it really really well. And like I said, when I had my Jeep, then hey, you dare not bring crisps and drink into that car. No way, I won't let you. But as time went on, it got to a point where I didn't really care anymore. They could leave all the mess in the car, and I just get their dad to like it needs to go back to the valley and get them to do it. So I think that the value you place on something actually determines how you use it, and it's
Can
so
I can
so
I let me chip in? Sorry, again, a practical one. Talking about your car again, and it reminds me of the cost of my tires, my car tires. Normally, the cheapest I tend to get for one is about 150, 180. So that's the
imagine
cheapest.
that.
So whenever because it's expensive for me, maybe your listeners are if they are driving big cars, so for them that is fine. But it's expensive. So when I'm driving and I see gravels, yeah, I take my time to swerve them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because when I get a puncher,
It's
and just going
expensive
to
to
just
maintain. Yeah.
it's just expensive to keep buying just one tire for just about close to about 200 quid for which could be using for an investment. So,
My
and I
goodness.
think that once you know, and because of that, I don't want you won't see me just driving my car in areas
Anyhow,
where
anyhow. Mm-hmm.
exactly, and I do the same to Lady D. I carry her well.
Yay! Guys, you know what? Let's have Lady D and Apostle on for expectations versus reality and round up the year. What do you guys think? Having both of them in here, guys. Apostle, this one here, this one is our request too. We'll talk about
Mm,
it behind the scenes. So we have you on for expectations versus realities. So we have both of you,
mm.
and then we talk about. I said from the beginning that when you see his wife, you can tell that this man is doting on her, and I think that is what all men should do. I remember some time ago, my my mom, my mom said, I was passing and he saw my husband. She was looking at my husband's eye where my husband's eye was going, but we were having a conversation. And then I was just passed. I think I was passing by the living room to the kitchen or something like that. And my husband's eyes were just like following me, going around. He said, "Hey, Albert, I won't come, baby." And so I think that
Ah,
the value you place on the person also determines how you want to maintain the relationship you have with them. I mean, there are some friends that this one, if you lose them you don't really mind, but there are some friends that you really don't want to lose them. And so I think that if we place the same thing on our relationship, that listen, I don't want to lose this kind of marriage that I have with this person, I don't want to lose the relationship I have with this person, you would try to maintain it. And let me just give you an example as well. My oldest daughter, we have that kind of a nice relationship, and so a guy invited her to come to the town where we live, we don't have a big city. It's not a big city. It's a town. It's a small town. And so the guy invited her to come and meet her in the town. He sent her a text on a Friday that, can you meet me up in the town tomorrow? And then she replied, do you know who my mom is? And so and so I said, oh, Nathaniel, am I that bad? She says, no, mommy, you're not bad. I'm not afraid of you, but I don't want to lose the relationship I have with you by going to the town to meet this guy. What will I tell you? Okay, if I lie to you, I'm going to meet my friend, and then you drop me off in the town, but I go and meet this boy, and then you find out. I don't want to lose that relationship I have with you. And I just hugged her and I said, Nathaniel, this is so profound. Thank you. She says, no, 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 I don't want to. So I think that if we also, as married couples, would bring ourselves that understanding that if we don't want to lose the kind of relationship we have with our spouses, we will try and maintain it. We will try and be, still doting like the way you dote on Lady D. We still have that lovey dovey, carry your bride again and all that. So I think that it's so true. The value you place on a relationship, it's very, very, very important. Now, Apostle, for someone that thinks that there's no campaign after election, how do you and so you don't mind? I mean, even if intimacy is missing, or romance is gone, or passion is gone, that they don't care, because they think, I don't settle you already, you're in my house, and so anytime I want to eat my bread, I guess need to come in. How do you get some people like that, or is somebody in at that place, to now know that, listen, you can actually campaign again for re-election? How do they now go back to the drawing board of re-campaigning?
I guess in a very respectful way, you would see that the Bible says, "For lack of knowledge, my people perish."
Mm,
We cannot know it all, and I think one thing that I've been mindful of is I need to have a teachable heart, both at work and in ministry. And it could just be somebody who is not a deacon or an elder, just who comes to church, but is able to tell me something that would be useful for me in life. And so I think if we have a posture of wanting to learn, we can only get better.
mm,
Because if you think that if I think what I know is all that is a ceiling, and that my wife is not happy, really, then I don't know much, because what I know is not really making somebody happy. And
absolutely.
so I think that we ought to have, we need to be willing and have a teachable heart. And I keep saying that the things that we wanted to become, we give ourselves to them and we became them. And so we shouldn't stop learning. And that is one of the things. And so this person who was campaigning might have had to learn the jargons of campaign. Even how to ensure that when you're wearing a brown belt, you have to wear a brown shoe. Charlie, by now you don't care. But what you don't realize is that all these things do matter to your spouse. And so um, my advice would be to have a teachable heart and be willing to learn, because you only get better. You only improve upon the things we do. You can imagine that if all you were eating was fufu, 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 fufu. I'm sure your spouse was not might not know how to do some dishes, but she
Yeah.
has taken upon to learn other things that anytime you eat, you go, hey, babe, Aziz oil, papa.
They want.
Then you realize that then you realize that really there's a change, but you can't. And the same applies. And then some men have complained about missionary, 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 missionary,
Eh?
missionary. But equally, it all comes with a teachable heart, with health permitting and with body, you can do anything. The imaginations of what God has given us, we can think far off, and we can be very innovative.
Mm,
But I'm sure if if you do that, and God forbid, you're caught in the web. You'll find yourself wanting. David was a good man. He loved his family, loved his wife. But while he was meant to be at war, he was walking on his veranda and sees something he's never seen
mhm,
before. They even told him that Charlie Adia Koye Bone, or say Charlie still gonna bring the woman. So it tells you how far, when we are not willing to learn, to improve what God has given us, to enjoy
mm,
what God has given us. There's a huge temptation for you to find something that is not the same as you have, and it will draw
mm.
you into a situation where, when you get yourself out of it, might be very difficult.
Wow. This is so profound. This is so, so profound. If you don't find yourself, if you're not supposed to be where you're not supposed to be, please get out of there. Oh, quick, 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 quick. Apostle, I have a question here for you from one of our viewers. He said, "You touch, hey people." He says, "You touch briefly on missionary position. How do you get somebody that is so used to missionary position to now learn other positions?"
Yeah, and I think it's a good point. There's this, we're not because we're not discussing intimacy, but what we are discussing is equally important because it's maintenance. So I'm hoping that the spouse is also listening to realize that maintenance to maintain the sex life is important. um, the essence of it is fulfillment. You can imagine when the man walks into the kitchen, you give him the first you give him banku and okro, he was happy. Charlie, since then he's been eating the same thing over and over again. Now the same thing he used to admire and but comfort now. Now he doesn't do it. She doesn't. He just eats and put the place. Sometimes he would even eat McDonald's before coming. It tells you that there's something wrong here. And
Yeah.
equally we should be learning, and so and it's not difficult to learn. The things I don't know how many of us know how those even who complain or who say they are not good at maths. You'll be surprised that when you ask them two minus one, they will know the answer
Mm.
because they've learnt it, and which means that we can go back to it. And it might be that we let's learn together. Get a book, the two of you. They are good books, actually, written by Christians. If for down for if of doubt, but there are good books on the market. And spouses should have one to learn. And sometimes, like you were talking about it, it might not. Oh, you can go back to the reminiscent. Let me use you or Osofu Sandra for as an example. So you, when you were giving your example, you were talking about you and Osofu talking about popcorn days. No, it's not just popcorn days. When you married afresh, the things you used to do, you also begin to open. Hey, Ika Dama style, yeah, and
It's
if you check that it's been a long time that you've done it. Let's revisit. And so, if really there isn't, and it helps because when we become old, we're able to look at the past and the memories we have. It keeps us going. And so, I will plead that the woman should be willing to learn. She should have a teachable heart, to say that, look, really, if we're going to have fulfillment in our sex life, then it can't always be missionary. There ought to be something else. There ought to be
mm,
something else. There ought to be something
absolutely
else. Yeah.
amazing. Okay, so I think that your question is answered. I have another one here that says, um, you're talking about reconnection. How do you reconnect with somebody that doesn't want to reconnect?
So I think it comes with need. Yeah. So the point. So one party has seen the need of the disconnection. The other party has not seen it, and that is why they are still doing what they are doing. And a
Mm,
typical example is the prodigal son. He was right. He was dead solid that his decisions were spot on, until he lost his money. He lost everything. He says Bible said, I like the way the text puts it. It says he came back to his senses. You
mm,
know, at some point, these people, or if I've lose it, I expect. And Diana has a way to, for instance, one day, she was saying something I wasn't listening, and then. I think she does that I do not like, and that is when I see her on her knees and she says, "Look, I've spoken to you. You're not listening, so I'm speaking to your Father in heaven." I don't like that kind of prayer,
oh,
because I see them as dangerous,
Papa.
and so, but there was a day she said something that, there was this thing I've been telling you, and she burst into tears of joy, and she said, "Look, God is faithful. Prayer works." And it says, I've been praying to God about this, and to see you do it, it's amazing. It means that God listens to every prayer, and so,
Oh,
it tells us that, sometimes, even though what the person might be doing, might not be wrong, the disconnection is not a good thing. And
mm,
so, you need to find ways to bring that awareness, um, um, and it might be that, just when, the match is about to happen, that's the right moment to capture his attention. Men would listen. I'm telling you, we would always listen doing just when intimacy is about to happen. Anything you want us to talk, but just be careful during the time, because if you say it at the wrong time, we'll also forget once we finish and we get up. So, so the timing has to be right. But you want his attention. Market
mm,
show that I've told you that always take your time. Always, want the music at the background. And it's gradual. And don't forget that we are all different. And
mm,
so where there is connection, I believe that, try and get his attention to start thinking. And probably the way you also sell the issue,
yeah.
might be wrong. Ebe, what do you think? Go and see what other men are. It means that you're approaching him from a wrong angle. You let him know how much you appreciate him and how you feel that you don't feel loved if these things do happen. It hurts you, he's got conscience. He's got conscience, and I'm sure he will come back to his senses. I'm not sure if that helps resolve the
I think it
answer the
really
question.
does. It really does help. That is so so true. So, guys, I hope that your questions have been answered. We've gone past our hour, but I think because we're enjoying the conversation, so we'll give Apostle like 10 more minutes. So if you have any questions, please bring them on, and then we would try and answer them for you whilst we round up for this month expectations. Oh no, marriage maintenance and coffee on the couch with Apostle Douglas. If you've just joined us, we're talking about marriage maintenance, how to reconnect when the reconnection is broken, how to bring the spice back in and all that. Okay, I know that we were not really dwelling on the intimacy side, but Apostle, let's bring it in a little bit. For a couple that have lost all that spark, that have lost all that attraction between them, how do they now, talking about reconnection, how do they now bring it in again and find that attractiveness, find that passion, the spark, the lovey-doveys, and the cuddles and the sex styles and all that they used to do before? How do they bring this back into the marriage?
Okay, so I think Pastor Sandy, with intimacy, if both parties have realized it, and that is where they both are, and they all want change, it makes it easier. One of the things I would highly recommend is somebody like yourself, to for them to speak to, because you see what actually happens is, when the two of them draw themselves away from, having a go at each other, having, as I say, that it's your fault, it's my fault, and you take all those away, and you give yourself a fresh start. It's always helpful. It might be that, if you've got kids or there are no kids involved, do well to take a break. Sometimes the change of environment changes the way you think. It changes the way, and be specific, be intentional. Let it be that, it's a beach, where it opens the balcony. It might be very expensive, but it's worth it because it will save your marriage. You
Absolutely.
know, I think that you made mention about people sometimes not hugging. Look, I hug my wife all the time, but we went to Tenerife, and the room we went for was just to the sea, the balcony. Oh, when we got in, I held Dana. I felt it was a good hug. I knew that
Woohoo!
that journey would not be wasted. I knew that it would not be
It was
wasted at
worth
all.
it.
So just, I'm not even talking about spending so much, but just go away from everything. The fact that you're not in church on that Sunday does not mean you've sinned, or God will, or you not make it to heaven. Because even your pastor, he also needs to take time off,
It does,
um,
yeah.
and and just be alone, and open up.
Mm,
Open up, and you'll be surprised what God will do. Ideally, if they can take a session of a bit of counseling before they go. It spices you up, because you go with all the ideas and what you can do and how you should do, and probably you've never walked by the beach before, because the kind of beach you saw in Africa was not beach. So
Mpano.
um Bwanazi. So and you'll be surprised what it will make you as young as you've ever even thought of, imagine. And when you come back, you ask yourself, how do we maintain these feelings, that this intimacy, this closeness that we had in the UK? And you will see that immediately the plane is about to touch down. When you get into the UK airspace, your bills, the stress of UK will begin to come back. But you need to
Mm-hmm.
find it will tell you that you always need such a break to
True.
maintain. We're talking about maintenance to
Yeah.
maintain it. And I think it's just about reigniting the flame. It's there. It's there because you once had it. It's there. It's just about looking for the right flame to light it, and then it will come back.
Oh, that is so so true. Oh, I thought we are done. All right, there's a last question. Guys, this is going to be my last question to Apostle. If you have any more questions, you can. Apostle is on Facebook as well as Dr. Asante. Please, you can just send it to him directly through his inbox, and he will, trust me, he will give you all the necessary support he needs. He's a he's a marriage counselor as well. So if you need any issues, please contact Douglas Asante directly. He would help you. Um, there's a question here that says, you said you've been married for 15 years. How do you maintain this romance because I can tell you're very romantic. Hey, I'm mouthful. Mhm.
Thank you. I appreciate that the compliment. Uh, um, like I said, I think that for me, maybe it's in the nature and sometimes how we've been brought up. I'm the only son of my mom, with two, myself and myself, and I'm always close to my mom. I kind of like touching, feeling, you know.
Mhm.
So, and I think the only person who sees me and I'm able to become like a young boy again is my spouse. I never shy away from it. I'm always to maintain it. It's being real. It's being real with it. You know. Because if not, where else do I do it? Because look, at church, I'm a spiritual figure. I'm preaching. The
Mhm.
thought of these things are not there. When you get into the pub, you're preparing a sermon. Those things are so. The only time I'm flesh and blood, I can't. And I think I've said this before, that I've even told, to the extent I've told my wife, that look, even when I'm on my sick bed, that is if that's the case, then they've been told that I've got 2 hours to go. She should just come in, close the door, let's have the last shot, because because when I get to the other side, there's nothing there for me, you know. So and I think that it is not a sin to love it, to express yourself, to let your
Absolutely.
feelings be made aware to that
Mhm.
one person, and it helps because it rekindles.
Hey, Pastor D.
It helps with a marriage, because and that is how we've maintained it.
Yeah.
um and when something is wrong, I would know, she would know. There's something we call sexometer, you
Mm.
know. And when it's not happening, mommy, you know what? The way you've been feeding your children, you've not been feeding this man, oh. You know. And sometimes because she's caught up with work and stuff, but look, and where there are issues, we take it into prayer. I think that on our last show we had did a program for Bishop Moses. He came up, and when after giving birth, she used as an example that the libido wasn't, the feeling wasn't there as before.
Mm.
But we discussed it and we prayed about it, you know. And equally she did something about it. And we always want to enjoy, we always want to feel like we are young, because I know a time is coming. I'm not, many people see people, old people, going to Tesco, and as that they hold their hands with Charlie, at that stage you can't fire, oh. There is no
Mhm.
firing, it's just holding hands. And you know, if you don't do it now, Bible says there's time for everything. A
Everything.
time to be born, a time to fire, a time to hold, a
Mm.
time to cuddle.
Mm.
And so
Mm.
for me, I'm still young, and you know, I'm aging, but I'm still making sure that I've
You're
still got
firing well.
my feeling philosophy. So so let's keep it going. It helps, and God blesses such act. God is interested. He blesses us. He wants us to be fulfilled as husbands and wives.
Absolutely.
And so let's do all we can to enjoy it while we are alive.
Mm.
Amen.
Amen, amen, amen. Guys, you heard it from Apostle that he says he fires well. He won't. Charlie, when you close that door to the other side and that other side door is open, there's no fire in there. So the fire in there, you
No,
for fire.
atamanfo asɛm dze ɔmfa nka asɛm.
It has it. So you need to fire. You need to fire. Please be real. Be real with your feelings. Learn to and I think there's some people that can't express their feelings. They can't show it. Listen, just before I came on, I was telling Apostle that I fell asleep. You know why I fell asleep? Because my husband was reading, and so his side of the light was on, and he was reading. My back was towards him, and when I realized he was awake, I just said to him, I just tapped him. I said, hug me. And then I realized he put whatever he was reading down, turn off the light, and he hugged me from behind. And I fell asleep again. Guys,
Wow.
we have to express our feelings. If we don't express them with our spouses, where are we going to express them to? Who are we going to do it to? And so me, if I need to fire, I will tell you, my dear, come up. I'm calling you. You know, if we need to go away and fire, we have to go away and fire. But Charlie, like Apostle said, for whatever you do, never stop firing. You know, when you see all these oldies holding hands, they've been firing since. That is why the fire is still there to keep them. That the friendship is there to keep them, to sustain them. So don't let your firing go down. Please express your feelings, express yourself, learn to express yourself, be the student of your spouse. Learn when your spouse is calling you with his eyes. Learn when he's telling you, damn, you look hot. Learn when he's trying to tell you, Charlie, follow me up. Learn it. Learn, be a student of your spouse. And if you have issues and you need to talk about them, talk about them. Don't sweep under the carpet. Be open, be sincere. Tell them exactly how you feel and deal with it so it doesn't become like a termite that eats the foundation of your relationship or of your marriage. Talk about it, deal with issues, find help, find solutions. And please, for whatever you do, have beautiful, healthy relationships. This month we're just talking
Amen.
about marriage mentor. Take everything to God in prayer. Seek God in your marriage. It's not just me and my spouse, it's you, spouse, and God. It's the three of you. And if Christ is in it, trust me, you will have a smooth sail. Apostle, thank you so, so, so much for taking
Thank
time
you,
of
Father.
your Saturday morning and coming to spend over an hour with us. We're
That's
so
good.
grateful. We're so, so grateful. Thank you so much. And my regards to everyone. And please, this one is we're doing it now. We're saying it on air, aren't we? We want you to come, you and Lady D, for expectations versus realities, where we talk about real life marriage issues. Before we
Yeah.
crown 2022, we want you guys to come on. So please, I
Thank
will
you.
discuss this with you off air, but this one is just to, we're undertaking it now. Thank you so much, Apostle. Thank you. Enjoy the
Blessings.
rest of your Saturday, and I'm so grateful that you're on. Guys, all too
Blessings.
soon, we've come, thank you, sir. We've come to the end of another session of expectations. Oh, why do I keep saying realities? I think it's because I'm looking forward to it. We've come to the end of Coffee on the Couch, your Saturday morning relationship chat with me and Dr. Evangelist, Apostle, Pastor. I give him all the accolades. Douglas Asante. I call him the love guru. Guys, if you have any issues, please you can link him up on Facebook, and he will sort you out. He's an author. He's a father, a husband, a marriage counselor, and so he talks from all the sides, all angles as well. Okay, so please link him up, and he will help you. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday. Maintain your marriages where the cracks are. Like he shared about the building and the cars. We take our cars for yearly services and maintenance and all that. So please don't let your marriage rot. Don't let your marriage remain where it is. Don't let the termites eat the foundations of it, but maintain it. Where there are leaks, try and repair them. If you need the plumber, call it. If you need the gas man to come and service your boiler, call it. Whatever you do, make sure you're maintaining your marriage. Don't say because we've been together for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, and so we need to now live like roommates and just let the fire fizzle down. No, let's rise above that status quo that says being together let the love die. It doesn't. Being together should actually let you feel like wine. The older it gets, the better it tastes. That is what your marriage should be. The older it is, the better it becomes, because you've learned it all. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious unto you. Have a beautiful weekend and go through this month, the rest of this month, with the confidence and assurance that greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world. The Lord loves you, and so do I. Until I come your way again, keep building beautiful, healthy marriages and relationships. I love you all. Bye bye.